argument. Well, I'm not going to debate with some dumb fuck who's never going to be a billionaire, no matter how bad he wants to be a billionaire. And I don't fault him for that. But you don't have to adopt all the fucked up, lack of moral integrity, all the lying and all that. I don't have to go along with that shit, and I'm fine. I'm usually like straight down the middle. I'm not too far, not too far left, not too far right. But you throw a tariff on my fucking beer and I'm going to be pissed off.
All right. All right. Yay. All right. Welcome back to No Borders, No Filter podcast. I'm Debra, the Experient Explorer, the free-spirited, rebellious Gen Xer from New York by birth, but a global citizen by choice for decades, now based in the Philippines. This podcast is unfiltered, uncensored, and dives deep into life, culture, and all the messy truth with all of that other stuff in between. All right, so before I introduce my guests formally, I'm going to have them answer a question, and that will give you some clues to what we're talking about and who these guys are all about. All right, the first question for today is, if you could relive 1 year of your Gen X childhood, but only for a day, which year would it be and why?
Well, for me, it'd be 1997. That was the year that I got laid. The football team is doing well. Did nothing but lift weights and, have sex with my girlfriend, at the time. So I do that all day.
Just a rotation of sex, football, sleep, eat, and whatever.
Yeah, for sure. In my 17-year-old mind, I would love to be there doing that all day.
Yeah.
And watching MTV and just doing that all day.
Yeah, well, I would have to say, I'm not going to answer my question yet, but my senior year was kind of like that as well. I freaking loved it.
Yeah.
Fun. So great. All right, though, but I want to hear Jared's answer before I get
Mine's, I was a giant dweeb, so I'm not as cool as you guys are. So mine was, 1988. My dad brought home like our first computer. It was like a little tape recorder type computer that you hooked up to the TV, and it had a keyboard attached to it, and you could type commands on the keyboard and it would show up on the TV. So you could like change the colors of the TV. I'm like, that's amazing. And I was hooked ever since. So I've been a tech weenie, and no, I didn't get laid in high school. Sorry.
Oh.
Truth revealed.
But, you had your tissues for your technology. So.
Yeah. I went down a different rabbit hole.
Yeah. I'm just curious, do you have any pictures of you with your technology, like all geeked out then? I would love to have a copy of that.
I don't think so, because that's all old school. Nothing was digital, right? So I'd have to actually find a physical photo. I don't know if I have any.
Oh, you haven't scanned and archived your photos. I've done a bunch of that.
Who does that? That's you.
Oh, yeah. I did it actually a long time ago, like back in 2000 time. I actually even did that. All right. So for me, I would go back to 1989. I think the B-52's Love Shack inspired my first time experience at summer camp. I'm from Long Island, New York, and we went to summer camp. Meaning my friends and I, and from my upbringing, we went to summer camp, and that means sleep away for 2 months away from our parents. And I went, after my final year as a camper, I went back to be a trainee, which is kind of between a camper and a counselor. And I fell head over heels over a maintenance man, working on the docks, mowing, all that manual labor made me like, ugh. I loved him. I just, he was totally different from the boys I grew up with, and a local boy. And we had my first actually, in the counselor shack. And he treated me like a lady. And after we were together, he carried me to the lake front and we hung out under the moonlight. Very romantic.
Yeah, very. It's like a
Yeah.
movie,
It was like a movie, and it was totally unplanned, really.
right?
It just happened, and yeah, that was 1989. I
Awesome.
went to camp one way, and I went home another way,
Right.
and I loved
Yeah.
it because it was like a part of the rebellion. It was against the rules of camp, and it was something obviously I kept a secret from my family as well and everyone I knew. So that's how I roll. I have that rebellious Gen Xer still living in me. It has not waned at all. So with that, I just want to introduce my guests today. My guests are Ian and Jared. They are the hosts of Common X, a podcast that embodies the raw, unfiltered voice of Generation X. These guys are going to just put it out there. They are direct. They're so funny. Shitloads of opinions and passion about, especially the things that are happening in the US right now. And for me, as much as I've been a global citizen, I am dying to talk about the things that are happening in the US because as I continue to get older, I am getting more passionate about politics, but more so how politics is affecting the world. As a global citizen and an experienced explorer of this world, I see how America's influence is at every place that I go. And so my knowledge of America has actually grown more from being outside of the borders. So with that, we will include nostalgia. We are going to, wrap up with words to the wise for you all because we have been around a while. So you can learn a thing or two from us today. So stick around and wait, listen till the end. And I'm sure you will enjoy the journey from now till there. All right, so let's get to know a little bit about Jared and Ian. I don't want to be the talkers of the introduction. I'd rather them give us some introduction about, first, what is the story behind Common X? Can you give us a little bit of insight to your podcast?
Sure. And this is kind of a fun fact. A lot of people don't know this, but Jared and I didn't really know each other before we started a podcast. It's kind of interesting. Our wives are best friends. They started hanging out. We were having these pool parties at my house and bonfires and stuff. And Jared and I got to kind of know each other. I was actually thriving on TikTok as Gen X Dad. I have an account there. I follow you on there. And was trying to start to go somewhere with that. I knew I was good at making video productions and TikTok shorts, was gaining a following. And I actually had another buddy, a mutual friend of Jared and I, his name is Alan. He was starting a podcast and I wanted to play a role in helping promote his podcast. The idea of starting a podcast was never mine. So finally, one night around the campfire, I think it was Jared that said, "You can chime in anytime, buddy." I think Jared had the idea to start a podcast, and we were talking about leadership. Jared and I had both held leadership roles for major organizations. He's an agile leader. I'm kind of an authentic leader. So we kind of had a commonality interest and a bond there. and Jared had the idea to start a podcast, and maybe we could do a podcast about leadership. Well, me and my Gen X nature, I was like, no, I think we should have a Gen X show. Let's do a Gen X podcast. And I think it was Jared that said, well, let's call it Common X. And that's how I recall it.
Yeah, and it's just that combination of Generation X and, as we were talking around the fire about common sense isn't that common anymore. We kind of combined the two, and it just popped into my head and just like, hey, common sense from Generation X, Common X.
Yeah.
Right? So that was the birth of the idea in the podcast.
Good.
And it's been downhill ever since. I mean, wait.
Yeah.
Other way.
And I loved it too. I loved it too. I couldn't ask for a better co-host. We actually had kind of like a little tiff that I didn't even know we had a tiff. So like when it first got started, I wanted to call it Common X with Jared and Ian. And I know that when Jared and I would talk about it before we actually posted our first episode, when he would talk about it, he would say Common X with Ian and Jared, and I would say Common X with Jared and Ian. And I think I finally wore him down with all the TikToks and all the promoting of it all. But what it was my mutual respect, my deep respect for my co-host, Jared, that I wanted his name in the forefront there. So Common X with Jared and Ian.
Wow.
So it even came down to that. And I like to think that likewise, he was doing the same by wanting it to be Common X with Ian and Jared. We just have that deep respect for each other. And it's made for a great partnership for the podcast for sure.
Yeah, I just wanted him as the front man, so if people started shooting, he was in the front. No, sorry.
But the thing is that alphabetical order, I-J.
Right.
I-J.
Yeah.
So, all right. But I mean, for me, again, I've just met these guys, but I feel their dynamic is as if like they have known each other or done these podcasts for so long, because when I listen to their podcast and when I've talked to them briefly earlier, it just feels like they're family with each other, and I just feel the connection and I enjoy their energy. So let's kind of share a little bit, if we have some listeners that have some maybe initial stereotypes of Gen X, what does being a Gen X mean to you?
Well, just what it means to me is it's our generation of which we grew up, and we grew up in that interesting time where our mothers had to enter the workforce. We are the latchkey kids. We had the key around our neck, or we had, that fake little rock that everybody got it from as seen on TV. That was
the key rock.
The key rock. Where the dude that wanted to break into your house knew that if you were at school and your mom was at work, that he could just lift that rock up and take that key and break into your house.
I remember them talking about that. I love that.
Yeah. So we're just that generation. We are those latchkey kids. We had a little bit of time to fuck around between the time that we got off school and our parents came home.
Yes,
and to get in as much trouble as possible. Yeah. Getting as much trouble as possible. For some reason, the first few girls I dated, their dads were cops. I mean, I was always on the run there. But, that's just my generation. I could rely on, Billy Idol on MTV, or I could rely on, Steven Tyler from Aerosmith to be there, or Axl Rose from Guns N' Roses. I knew that if I didn't piss my parents off, I could watch Beavis and Butthead before bed. That's what it was all about, outside of filling up a tube sock, looking at the JCPenney catalog, that was pretty much teenage life. And that's what being a Gen Xer means to me, man. So.
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh my
God. I'll probably echo the tube sock thing, maybe. And then
and there's always double sock Tuesdays too, It's like, hey, you can't let one sock get hard without the other one,
Right. I think we're like the original do-it-yourselfers too. Like, there wasn't anybody to do things for us, right?
Yeah.
So we just did it ourselves. Like, I can remember we would just leave for hours, and my mom was like, "Be home by dinner." Right?
Yeah.
And we'd ride all over with our bikes and create ramps and jumps and things like that, and go out and play with army men and blow them up with firecrackers.
Yeah.
And we're the last generation that's analog and the first generation of digital. Right?
That's correct. That is correct.
Before us, there was no digital. world for people to participate in. So I think we're the last generation that grew up with that analog world, not
We
having the
are.
digital influence. Uh,
You know,
and
for, oh, sorry, go ahead.
and I think that's made us more resilient. And there wasn't as much information at the time either. So I think we just grew up with our environments around us and didn't have a lot of influence from like social media influencers, things like that. So
We are the last, like for me, one of the things that I believe is true and I'm proud of is that we're the last free generation of kids.
yeah.
You know, like that's kind of overlooked. I mean, a lot of people, you know, like, is it neglect? You know, like they would point that out. You know, did our parents neglect us? Because as I brought up earlier, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your child, you know, is? And
Right.
that was on TV. That's
Hmm.
how things were. But the thing was, we all came home, you know. There
Yeah.
wasn't, you know, this fear of, like, I know there were some kidnappings that started with the milk cartons and things like that, but, you know, we were allowed to ride our bikes, so we didn't have to worry about helmets and knee pads and, you know, being like around helicopter parents, you know, making sure that we don't scratch ourselves. I mean, we were the type of kids, as you say, resilient in that, you know, we would fall down, we would scratch our elbows, our knees, or what, and whatever. We didn't go home running and crying. I certainly didn't. And, you know, you would just get back up and keep on going, you know, and clean up later. We were rugged. We were kids that had a little bit of grit to us. I certainly didn't feel like there was like this big gender issue either with kids. You know, when until like
Hmm.
obviously through puberty, when you obviously are looking at the other, your, you know, that aspect of childhood. But before then, I mean, boys and girls, we played together, and you know, you know, I played doctor with. I don't know. Did you guys play doctor with your friends? That was something that we did. You know, we were given that
Hmm.
freedom in the bedroom too to hang out. So
Right.
Yeah.
it's just a different time. We'd sleepovers, and yeah, yeah, it was just a lot more liberating back then. And
Yeah, it's weird to see that today. Like my kids don't do sleepovers at all. Like they don't invite people over. Other people don't invite them over. It's just weird. Like as you said, like growing up, I had friends over all the time. I went over to people's houses all the time, slept there, and you know, you could get away with stuff. Oh, Jared's over at Jeff's house. Is he? Is he
busy,
really?
yeah,
Right.
yeah, right.
So, but yeah, now like my kids don't do any of that stuff. And it's not for lack of trying. I'm like, hey, invite some friends over, have a sleepover. They're like, hey, I'm gonna just be on my tablet or device or Xbox or blah blah blah.
Lame.
It is
Exactly.
so lame to me. It's so
Yeah.
lame because the thing is, there is an actual real world with like people and, you know, things that are real. I mean, living on a tablet, which I do a lot now, or technology in general. I mean, it's just I feel it's so unhealthy and artificial. I'd rather like have at least a moment in my day for a good quality interaction with a human being. I feel that this technology has done a lot of harm, which we will definitely get into. I just, you know, we've gone from generation where like where I would play ColecoVision a little bit in my day. But as we talked about, being analog, being, you know, in life is what a Gen Xer was about. We were forced to learn how to build our skills as, you know, especially at my camp. Like we would have to learn how to do teamwork, and we would have to learn how to be a friend. We had all these practical skills that are missing, it like have almost like become an obsolete in the world today, and in education. And that's the things that, you know, I kind of want to touch into is, you know, are the ways of this age of technology hindering the actual skills and needs to not only be a healthy, independent minded person, and for that, furthermore, are they going to be able to be the leaders that we obviously so desperately need for the future of, let's say, democracy? All right,
Right.
so as we touched upon, I want to get back to the question. Like, I listened to your podcast, and Jared, you brought it up again, and so I kind of want to, start leading into these morals and value actually this aspect of our topic today, because that you inspired me when I listened to your podcast when you talked about things related to Gen X. And I thought that was a really good topic, because as a person that lives a global lifestyle, and I haven't been in the US for quite some time, I only can honestly learn from you guys about, and you guys have kids, what is going on with the kids there? Are they anything like the kids that I have met in, let's say, for example, China, that is so advanced with technology? And let's to keep it simple, there's not a whole lot of common sense going on there. And for that matter, here in the Philippines, I'm having major issues with that. I think it's also cultural in the way that they're being their upbringing is much more, community oriented, not individual. So that plays a role also, but they love their technology as well here. And I just find that people are walking around like zombies, and like there's the critical thinking and common sense is just like, I kind of like I want to bang my head against the wall. I'm just so frustrated with the lack of common sense. So can you share about what common sense means to you both, and what it's like over there regarding common sense in America, or lack of?
I think common sense is earned, through life experience. It's again, going back to, we were the last generation of analog. Like, we just had to figure shit out, right? Like, and I think that makes you more self-reliant on trying to figure things out for yourself. So it makes you view the world a little differently, of like, hey, I have to figure this out, so I'm going to go research that, or I'm going to look into that, or I'm going to ask somebody how to do that. We didn't ask people to do stuff for us. And I think that built that common sense thing inside of our brains. So I think Generation X is probably the last generation that actually had common sense. I don't know if it's really existed much afterwards, because if you're always on a screen and are always looking in, social media influencers, what is there for you to figure out anymore? Like yourself. And kids don't go outside and play outside or figure stuff out for themselves. Like you said, the helicopter parenting also played a role, right? Like, you're not going to let your kid do this or figure it out. Protect them from everything. Bubble wrap your child, right? Like you'd said, I don't think I'd owned a helmet for a bicycle until I had kids, right? Like, I have lots of concussions. That probably explains a lot about me. But at the same time, like you said, we got scraped. We just dusted it off, got back up, and started playing again. And so I think with that lack of some digital alternative for us to just immerse ourselves in, like, we are the fuck around and find out generation, right? Like, mess around, figure stuff out for yourself, and learn from it. And I think that's what gave us an abundance of common sense. And
So what's the
technology, I
difference?
think, robbed that.
What's the difference then to you? Like, because to me, when you talk about figuring things out, because like also like, especially for boys, I mean, I can't help saying this. This is definitely much more of a typical boy. Like, they might take a rotary phone and, take it apart and then try to put it back again, which builds a lot of, again, what you're saying, skills of,
Mm-hmm.
utilizing like critical thinking, creative,
Correct.
cognitive work, which is what I think about more. Like, I think about more of that cognitive skill when you talked about all that than common sense. What is common, like, can you give an example of where you have common sense, and then when you encounter with your kids or other adults that you're like, why don't you have common sense? What exactly is common sense, which is a universal thing, right?
Yeah, I
Right.
think for me, like, asking sometimes when I ask my kids to do things, like especially around like chores, like I have to explain it to them. And like
Mm,
growing up, I'm like, you just did this. Like, you did your chores all the way. You looked around the kitchen and grabbed every dish and cleaned it.
mm,
It's just common, right? You're looking around, completing your tasks, getting it done so you could go play again, right? But our
mm-hmm,
kids are, I'll look around the kitchen, especially dishes is one of my pet peeves, right? So like
mm.
I'm done, dishwasher's on, and there's, 12 dishes still around. I'm like, huh? I'm like, why wouldn't you just grab everything? And there's a lot of that for me with my kids, and I don't know, Ian, if you have the same thing. And it's like, why did you do that? Or why didn't you think about this? Or,
Mm-hmm.
why did you just stop at step one and then look around for help or answers or trying to figure something out for yourself? You just ask instead. For me, I think that's what it is. But
That makes sense. So what are your thoughts about common sense? Are you having the same challenges with your kids and like your kids are a little older now too, right? You have some kids in their 20s now,
no, mine are all
Ian?
teenagers still.
Yeah,
But
I do.
Ian has older. Yeah.
I still have some older kids in the house that are getting ready to kind of move out, and it's like, all right, you're going to leave the comfort of being fed by mom every night and being able to just make a mess or whatever. But how are you going to treat your own home when you get out there? And for us, it's more like say what you mean and mean what you say, follow through with things. That's where that common sense kind of comes in for me around here. I mean, you can go with the flow, have a beer every now and then, but you've just got to follow through with what you're going to do. And I think our generation kind of did that. Um, and technology definitely gets in the way. I've asked my son to go pick up the dog shit in the backyard, and he's giving me these ahas while he's looking at his phone like a fucking zombie. I see it. That's
Mhm.
where we're at with technology. Um, I feel like the newer generation is at a disadvantage with consideration to technology in that sense.
And I find that, again, because I've been an educator, I've been working, in these schools, so I'm working directly with these younger generations. And I also have to say that not only is the common sense not there, meaning like, as you just talked about, like, oh, I can't find a paintbrush. And they'll just come and ask me instead of look around the room. And like, even though like everything is out in the visual, because I do visual art. So like I make things
Right.
accessible for the kids and I already introduced them to where things are. They just rather have someone tell them where to go and what to do, like who, what, when, where, how, like they don't want to think about anything. Just tell me. And I am completely against that. I am an educator for critical thinking and building common sense. Like, so it's a real pet peeve. Like you talk about pet peeves. It's a real pet peeve when you are dealing with, let's say, educated people, like people that are educated, or a school system that should be educating kids on this, because they have to go out into the real world. And if they can't do these fundamental skills now, like, it's like, when are they gonna when are they gonna start learning these things? And I also see that it affects like like relationships that they have, because they don't have those skills, because as you say, they're hiding behind the tablet talking to their friends. That's not communication. Like, you're not having a beginning, middle, and end of a conversation. Like, we would speak on the phone. Like, I would have long
Right.
conversations with my friends on the phone in the afternoon and evening, like real hearty conversations. And these kids are having these bits of conversation. So when I like talk to these kids, they don't do high, like those like this, like I'm being like dorky right now, but like, hi, my name is Debra. What's your name? How are you? And you, like they will answer maybe the question like with one or two words, and they forget to ask the follow-up question because they don't learn these basic conversation skills. It's so Oh, it's
Yeah.
horrible.
I think social medias drive that, right? We've become a society of me, right? And not a society
Yes,
of
study
we.
of we,
And
right?
and when we were kids, it was definitely a society of we. Like I I use this a lot because growing up in Spokane, it was kind of there wasn't a whole lot of black people, but we had some black kids in our school, right? We had maybe one gay person in the school, right? But like nobody gave a shit. I didn't care if you were black or white or brown or yellow or green.
Exactly.
If you weren't an asshole, I would hang out with you. Like that was my filter, right? Like or my cutoff. If you're a dick, I'm not gonna hang out with you. I don't care what color you are, right? Like I'll hang out with anybody. It doesn't matter. And now it's become so polarized in this country and divided
Yeah,
over every little thing. And it's just like, really? Like,
yeah.
did you all just forget how like we all live together on the same planet? Like you
It
continue this
because
division, we're just going to destroy ourselves.
yeah, I mean the thing is that I remember you guys talking about like someone wrote in saying that Gen X are the most homophobic generation, and I would have to say that is completely not true because first of all, when I was a kid, I didn't even know what that stuff was. But number one, but
Right.
certainly it was not like a hot topic like in the news or anywhere. Like I would have to admit that people we used, let's say we look back and we did say in jokes, "Oh, that's so gay," which we
Right. When
can't
it
say
actually meant
anymore.
that, right? You
Yeah,
can't say that anymore or you'll be
yeah,
canceled or something.
yeah.
I mean,
So yeah.
I grew up pretty religious. Like I was raised Mormon LDS, right? And the joke was it's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve, right? So it's just like,
Mm, hmm.
okay, whatever. So I kind of saw it from that viewpoint, being raised that way. But then at the same time, I'm like, if a guy loves a guy, I don't care. Like if it's love, cool, right? If a woman loves a woman, I don't care. Not a big deal.
I mean, I do
Um,
remember at some point, like when I was a teenager, I don't know what brought it on, but I remember learning about that you couldn't get married as a gay couple. And I just kind
mhm.
of, I maybe asked my mom, I'm like, why can't they, like to me, it didn't make any sense. Why can't they get married? And all she would say, well, that's the law, but it still didn't make any
Right.
sense to me. I'm just like, why can't two
Eh,
people do what they want to do in that way? I don't see why there has to be a barrier to that. And, I grew up with a very, white, Jewish, Irish, Italian neighborhood. And we only had like, really and I grew up my high school class was a class of 182 or something like that. And like there was only like one or two people outside of the white, Japanese American and an African American.
mhm.
And I was friends with actually both of them. But I just didn't look at things that way. I mean, some of my, let's say, people with music, like I was like the hugest Michael Jackson fan. I grew up watching The Cosby Show. I grew up with, like I'm just saying, the culture, like arts, music, all that stuff had a mixture of black and white. It wasn't like I grew up watching only white people,
Mhm.
I think it was very socially acceptable, or like to me, a nice blend of cultures on TV. I'm not saying it was completely equal, but by all means, it wasn't. I wasn't whitewashed completely. How about you, for Ian? What are your thoughts about Gen X with multiculturalism? Did you grow up religious and kind of encouraged to follow a certain path?
No, no, not at all. That wasn't like a huge thing for me growing up. I know that when I got into my teenage years, maybe the school or something or a group of kids would have a function at a church or whatever. There'd be like a dance or something like that. Maybe I'd go there or whatever. But no, I wasn't really raised into any sort of religion. I just kind of had that, like, it was very wonder years for me.
I
You
love the
know,
Wonder Years.
it was
Oh,
just, I grew up and there was always a girl down the street that I always wanted to chase or get with or whatever. And I had a group of friends. We'd play football and whatever. So, uh, being black or white or having different ethnicities or different backgrounds or whatever didn't really resonate with me. Like it was just normal, I guess, for me, to look at everybody the same, treat everybody the same. I grew up that way and I still live that way now. I still don't see what the big deal is all about when we stick a type of people or a group of people into a box. Makes no sense to me because I was just never around that.
How white is where you're living right now? I mean, you live in a very white state, right? Am I correct?
Not
It's
really.
Not
I
yeah.
really?
mean, like our location probably is what, 90% white,
Yeah.
but like we're rural. So like as you
Rural
get in,
Washington,
right,
yeah,
as you get into cities, that population,
decrease.
changes. The
Yeah,
density
those
changes,
demographic changes. Yeah.
right? So like I think Seattle, Spokane, Tacoma, the Vancouver, the big cities, Portland, right? Like they'll have more um black people or, and I think, from listening to some of the lives, like a lot of black people will say, well, black people didn't have the chance to get property and move out into places. Like they didn't have those same opportunities as the white people did. And I think some of that is, a white bias for me, maybe, I guess, growing up white. Again, like I don't see color, and when I say that, people get all pissed off, and I'm just like what? Like I don't care what color you are. Like it doesn't matter to me. And they're like, well, it matters to us because we didn't have the same opportunities you did, and and then I'm like, I guess, like there's been black people in every single political office, every single job. Like you guys have that same opportunities. Are you disadvantaged from growing up and where you're at? Maybe, right? Probably, right? But the opportunities are still there. So,
Yeah, I mean, I can, like, let's say this. I'll be honest with you that I did not realize my white privilege until I left America. Like, I didn't
right,
understand. Like, how about this? Again, for me as a Gen X, we didn't have all these like labels of white privilege
right.
or, ADHD and, all of this stuff. I mean, it's great to be able to categorize and understand these things now. I'm not really against all that. But I do feel like we keep, I think that's part of the box issue is like we have all these categories of stuff now. And if you fit in that box or if you follow this political party, I mean, I'm just saying like we have become very, compartmentalized instead of being much more, let's say, united of the United States,
Hmm.
so. But I have to, say that when I left the U.S., I started to understand the white privilege a lot more. The opportunities for, let's say, white teachers in South Korea or China, that it's definitely still preferred. And I remember being in a job in New York City when I was first starting out after university, and like, I remember my boss was saying, don't share your salary with your colleague. And she was someone that was African American and there longer, which was inclining that I might have a similar or higher salary. Like I
Hmm.
didn't really pick up on that at the time, but looking back, I'm just kind of like, yeah. I'm just saying that there's a lot of subliminal messages through not only our parents, where they bring us up, or religions, but also what we see on TV and other things that kind of offer that privileged kind of superiority kind of complex. And when I left the States and went out into the world, I saw how people would almost like revere the white skin, like in certain ways. They have a lot of white creams in like in Thailand, in South Korea, here in the Philippines. They want to lighten their skin up. They want to be more European.
Hmm.
And I think that's awful. And I
Yeah, it's
discourage,
crazy.
like when they bring that, like when I see people coming up to me and saying, I love your skin. And I'm just like, well, I love your skin more, and there's nothing wrong with it. So I kind of, really try to push back on it. But there is such a still push on the white features, the plastic surgeries and things that the parents will do to encourage a certain look that might give them an advantage in a job in their future and things like that. It's just, yeah, so it's out there, still
Hmm.
this, let's say race superiority. Our influence from the Western world in America has played a role on that. And that goes into, like, let's go quickly into morals. What morals are missing in America right now that you would like to bring back?
All of them.
Okay, so you guys
Yeah,
give me
Pick
some
one.
time.
it's
Pick
quite the
one.
list.
So give a couple that are, let's say, on the top of your list.
Go for it, Ian.
It's just this rudeness, this sense of entitlement. So we're going through these political times here, and it's like, I don't know, it's so revenge of the nerds, you know.
Give me
It's
more on that.
it's
That's
fucking
interesting.
revenge of the nerds, man. So like the dudes that got their asses kicked in high school, now have a T-shirt to wear and a fucking hat, and they all get together and they parade around and destroy American flags in the back of their trucks. And it's like, I can still beat your fucking ass. You know what I mean? And because you belong to this group of millions of people who want the wrong things, it's like, okay, we face some scrutiny because we questioned whether or not someone like Elon Musk with his billions of dollars should be operating the levers of government. And the scrutiny was that we hated billionaires. Well, I don't hate billionaires. I just don't understand them. And I don't understand why they have to have all the control. You have all the money, all the control. This can turn into a heated argument. Well, I'm not going to debate with some dumb fuck who's never going to be a billionaire, no matter how bad he wants to be a billionaire. And I don't fault him for that. But you don't have to adopt all the fucked up, lack of moral integrity, all the lying and all that. I don't have to go along with that shit, and I'm fine. I'm usually like straight down the middle. I'm not too far, not too far left, not too far right. But you throw a tariff on my fucking beer and I'm going to be pissed off. I don't want to pay $6 extra for a case of fucking beer. Why? You know? And I'm always kind of laid back. I could give a shit, kind of go with the flow until you do that. When you affect my life, when I'm leaving everybody else alone, that's when I'm pissed off. So
Hmm.
that's what's got me is like, okay, I'm glad somebody found their identity after all these years, toothless and at 40, but get the fuck away from me, I don't want anything to do with it. I don't want to see you at the gas station. I don't want to see you at the store. And yeah, I'm not the guy who's going to go out and light your Tesla on fire, but I might beat your ass if you stare at me and laugh or whatever because you think that you know something that I don't because you watch some lie on Fox News. Like, fuck you. We need to settle the fuck down because more level-headed people like me, I know it's hard to say I'm the level-headed one after going on that rant.
After what you just said,
More
that's
more
hilarious.
more level-headed people like me though are going to be elevated to this level because I sat around the first term. I didn't say anything. I let everybody knock how, okay, we finally got the black president out of there. I'm happy now. I watched all those guys, hey, I did 8 years of Obama. You can do 4 of Trump. Then they kicked his ass out of there, and then we had another guy and then he's back in now. And now the whole shit's starting all over again. Now it's this, the new thing that pisses me off is, I had somebody undo the latch to my gate, to my private gate to my house here. You don't do that, right? That's trespassing, right? Well, this lady wanted to talk to me about something, a legal issue. So I have a mortgage on my house. Mortgage servicer bought the mortgage. Some other mortgage servicer bought the mortgage. When I bought my house, being that my payday's on the 10th of the month, that's when I paid my mortgage, right? Well, this mortgage servicer for the past few months is saying that I'm late because They say that my mortgage is on the first. Well, I didn't sign papers with those guys. They just bought the mortgage, right? So this lady thought she had the right to undo the gate, drive down my driveway, had the gall to wave at me. And I told her, you got about 10 seconds to get the fuck off my property. And she says, well, are you Ian Primer? Is this where you live? And I said, yeah. And you're in fucking danger, right? Okay, you're in danger because you just trespassed onto my home. Now you want to talk to me about something that is part of my commitment that I had with my original mortgage servicer to come and tell me that I'm late. And then you have the gall to have a sticker on your truck that says, I am classified as super MAGA. Well, super MAGA doesn't give you the right to undo the latch on my gate, and it'll get you fucking killed. And that's coming from a normal person. So it's this attitude we have now. Okay, I don't give a shit if he wants to call the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. That doesn't give you the right as his supporter to undo the latch on my gate and come on my property. It's still trespassing.
Yeah, and I'm gonna have to go back, our morals degraded from social media. Like, if you're behind a screen and there's no consequence to your actions, you're gonna say the dumbest shit on earth. Because what's the consequence, right? Like Ian said, when we were kids, if you came over and mouthed off or said something, you're gonna get beat the fuck up.
And you get punched in the mouth.
You're gonna get put in your place, and
You
I
get
think we
a belt
knew.
to your butt. Yeah?
Right. We knew
Yeah.
right from wrong. Right. We were raised on this is what's right, this is what's wrong.
Yeah.
Treat others how you want to be treated. Like,
Would either of
seems
you
to be
on this
gone.
show, would either of you on this show in any situation undo the latch to somebody's private gate? I'm talking a 10-foot gate on a wheel that you got to push open. Would either of you undo the chain and push that gate open to drive a quarter mile down someone's driveway to tell them
No.
useless information that doesn't even apply? I mean, that's not the place to handle that business. A phone call would have been fine,
Right.
but that is ridiculous. And
Yeah.
people are feeling empowered to do that. And that's where this thing blows
I
up.
think that like what you talked, like what I think the moral, that's what you're talking about, Ian, is a sense of entitlement.
Mhm.
Like, I believe in something and my cause supersedes anything that you believe,
My civil rights, right.
or your rights, or, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, absolutely. But, I think what you're just talking about, Jared, like when you bring it back to the stem of it is, I believe this, allowing kids to just like lack of parenting, kind of wanting to be the friend. Is that what's going on in a lot of, I don't know. I mean, I'm just asking, do parents of a certain generation not only just coddle them, take care of them, but also try to be their friend rather than be a parent? Is that kind of part of the issue?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that might have started with Gen Xers, maybe, like, making up for their childhood.
Yep.
And some of them, right? Not
Okay.
all of them. Like, I'm not that way, but millennials, I believe, kind of started this about everybody's a winner, right?
Oh yeah, that is
Nobody's a
total bullshit.
loser.
Oh God, I hate
Right.
that
And
stuff.
like
Yeah.
and
Participation
it's
award.
just taken over. It's taken
Ugh.
over American society, and like especially in the education system. So when you teach that everybody is a winner, like you now have, what's the point of trying? Right? Like, what's the point of being good at something other than sports, which we glorify and pay people millions upon millions of dollars to go play? Like, we don't value people's thoughts and brains, right?
Not anymore.
You don't pay
Yeah.
physics professors millions and millions of dollars. You give them 150 grand and they're supposed to figure everything out. Whereas somebody playing on TV, throwing a basketball in the hoop or throwing a football down the field, that gives them the right to have millions of dollars. Okay. And what do most of them do? Most of them probably die broke, right? You gave these kids millions of dollars out of high school and college. You didn't teach them about money. You didn't teach them, how to save money, how to invest that money. I think some people kind of figure it out, or some of their parents try and help them. And a lot of people just take advantage of them because they don't know. And so a good example is my son's high school. I think they had 60 people try out for basketball. When I was a kid, there were two teams, varsity and JV. You went, you
Yeah.
tried out. If you sucked, you didn't
Yeah,
play.
exactly.
Plain and simple. If you wanted to play basketball, you had to go get better, right?
Yeah.
If you wanted to play football, you had to be good at football. Like, so if you wanted to get with the cheerleaders and stuff, right? Like, and be that jock
Mm-hmm.
type of person, you actually had to be good at sports. But now they created six teams and just put everybody on six teams. And so it's like, uh, why? So, my son, he's not really good at basketball. And that's what should have been said. Like, hey, you're not good enough. If you want to be on the team next year, do this, 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 and this, right?
Yeah.
And
Try
we'll look at you
harder.
next year. But instead, it's just like, oh, yeah, here, we'll throw you on a team. We'll find some other high schools that maybe have not even C squads, like E and F squads, right?
Is
And
this from, like, I'm just sorry to cut you off, but is this
no,
from like the Bush administration of no child left behind mentality? Is
I
this what it
believe
is?
so. That's probably the start of it.
Yeah. Oh my
So,
God.
but education just continues to push the narrative and they say everything's okay. Like, if you think you're gay and want to be gay at age 12, then you can do that, right? Not having a conversation with them about, all right, do you understand what that means? Right? Because socially, everything's just accepted. So if you want to be this or you want to be that, you can just be that. But the suicide rate in teens right now is outrageous because they're lost, right? Like when you tell they don't have a sense of purpose, right? Like you tell every kid, oh, you're just the same as everyone else. Have a nice day, right? There's no betterment of self. There's no kids trying to be better. Like I can, you know, teach it to my kids because I realize it, right? But when they go to school, they don't get that education. That comes from me, not school. And then what's the point of education then? Like our education system is horrible. What Trump's doing to it isn't the answer, right? Like
Yeah.
abolishing it federally makes absolutely no sense because he's a fucking idiot.
Mhm.
And the actual school curriculum is handled at the state level. The states are in charge of what's taught in schools. So if you want to make that change, people should be getting on their school boards, talking to the leaders in the schooling around them to see that change. But honestly, they don't even listen. Like, because I've talked to some of them, oh, we can't change that. Oh, we're not going to do that.
Okay,
Why?
so let's lead into then leadership and the topic of um, us dropping the ball. Have we dropped the ball? I mean, you're talking about, Jared, you're talking about the education, which is obviously we need a good education, quality education. I mean, I don't think that we had the best education growing up in the context we were really lied to about our history,
Oh,
like
yeah.
big time. Yeah. So, thankfully, I would say for technology that we were able to kind of, I would say that has improved my, knowledge of things because a lot of the younger generation won't tolerate the what happened to Native Americans. And, I think that's part of, the awakening of some of the younger generation is that they don't want to be bullshitted in that way, which I like. I respect that. But, I think that, I mean, right now, especially with this administration, they want to keep people dumb. They have you can only lead, you can only gain full power by having a mass of ignorant people, non-thinkers. And I do believe that from my perspective, it's very intentional of what's going on. So with that, let's play the what if,
Mhm.
if you talked about in your podcast about that Gen X need to take over. So I want to hear what if we had Gen X as leadership right now, and you could maybe choose who would be a good example of someone from Gen X that would be a good leader. How would you have, like, what do you think how education would be if we had a Gen Xer that had morals and empathy and had common sense? How would education look? So why don't you guys share about where you think America would be if we had some Gen Xers in leadership?
You want to take a crack at that first, Ian, or you want me to go?
Sure, man. I think we would have less greed, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
I don't think Generation X is the greedy generation. So I think I think people would be taxed appropriately. I think you could probably solve a little bit of the income inequality. I think it's more of a sharing generation. Definitely work hard for what you get, for sure. I'm not saying everybody would have handouts or whatever, but I think that if I think people would treat people the way that they wanted to be treated, and I think Gen X leaders, would not forget where they came from. I think we have a lot of that. The current leadership that we have now, they can't remember where they came from because they are at where they've always been. They were born with a silver spoon in their mouth. They weren't beat with a belt when they fucked up. They weren't grounded or had their car taken from them or learned these valuable lessons that the boomers taught us. And they're still boomers. I mean, I find it funny when Donald Trump's on the yard of the front of the White House there saying he's going to buy a Tesla. I don't think he even knows what that looks like. I don't know if he even knows the person that he's employed to buy that Tesla for him. I don't think he's ever driven a fucking car.
No, he's never driven a fucking car.
So how does that person relate to society? I think, he can't relate to the people who put him in office. And I think if you had a Gen X leader, I think that Gen X leader would be different in that aspect because they grew up a certain way. They grew up having morals. They ran their mouth. They got popped. They got the shit beat out of them. They learned some lessons. They learned some life along the way, and they didn't always have it easy. Now, sure, there's Gen Xers that were born with a silver spoon in their mouth, but I think it was different. You look at a guy like Luigi Mangione, who just murdered Brian Thompson, allegedly, the CEO of United Healthcare. He's a millennial. Mm-hmm. He was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, but he had empathy for people. So he shot that son of a bitch that was responsible for millions of murders throughout the healthcare system that were killing people every day by denying claims. So there's different types of rich people. There's different types of power. And I think Gen X has a different perspective on that. I don't think it's the greedy generation. I think it's the generation that remembers where they came from. And the generation that got put in the corner and ignored. So I think you would see that. I think it would reflect in leadership if we had Gen X leadership today.
Yeah, and I think from my perspective, honestly, we were kind of disadvantaged, right? Like Gen X, when we grew up, we were seen, not heard, right? That was the big thing, especially for me, just be quiet, sit there and listen.
Yes.
Right? Don't talk out. And with that attitude, the boomers raised a very good middle class, working class. That's what Gen X became. We became the middle class, right? We came in, we do our job, we don't ask a lot of questions. Oh, you're screwing us over on pay, whatever, the salary rate between CEOs getting paid and what the middle class is getting paid is going through the roof.
Yep.
And we're just like, oh, whatever. Like, I'm not going to speak out because if I speak out, something will happen. Right. And I found that a lot in all the companies I've worked for. A lot of people just don't say stuff. And honestly, that's why I got fired from my last job. Or wait, sorry, let go. Not officially fired, because I was being that voice for the people, right, that I represented in the company, because they were afraid to talk out. And I think Gen X just kind of sat on the fence and let things happen and let the boomers run everything because boomers know best, right? Like they know what we're supposed to do, and we just trusted them. I think there was a few people, I'm included with one of them, that said like, oh, "No, this is bullshit," and I can see this happening. But I don't think there were a lot of leaders within Generation X because of that, how we were treated.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that's why we don't see a lot of leaders from Gen X. And
Okay.
honestly, like when you ask me like who you'd want to see, I have
Yeah.
no idea. Like I can't think of a single Gen X person right now that I would want as president or, leading things because where are they? There's no voice. Like millennials will take in that, like AOC and some of the other people
Mhm.
that have just gotten into Congress. Like
Mhm.
it's honestly skipped, right? So it went boomers
Yeah.
and then it went to millennials, and Generation X
Yeah.
was just like, we're just gonna sit here and take it because that's what we always do. So you
So
don't
that's
see a lot of leaders.
probably, so, I'm thinking about exactly what you said, that it is a lot of millennials that have the voice right now,
Mhm.
let's say for the Democratic or, that side of the
Right. And
things.
what we
Yeah.
see in Congress, in the Senate, and the House are all these goddamn dinosaurs,
Yeah, dinosaurs.
boomers, right?
Yes.
But get the fuck out. Like you don't represent
Yeah.
me. You do not represent anybody in America but white, empowerment, privileged billionaires. I mean, you can go down and this argument between people like, oh, well, Democrats are rich. And I'm like, no, both of them are corrupt, right? Like the Democrats are like, oh, the right is all these rich people and they're all corrupt. And then the right's like, oh, all the left people are rich and corrupt. And I'm like, are you guys seeing the common denominator here? It's fucking
Yeah, you're
money,
both fucked up. Yeah.
right? And it's greed. And, the old adage goes, the love of money is the root of all evil, not money itself, right? I think a lot of people get that confused.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I think what we've seen is all these boomers, for whatever fucking reason, probably because, a lot of them came from that depression era where there wasn't a lot of money and there was a lot of scarcity. They've built up this mentality. They just need to hoard all the wealth, right? We know best. We're going to take over. And coming back to where we are now, like I can link a lot of stuff why we are how we are today. One, going off the gold standard, right? You no longer have anything that ties your currency to a physical asset. So now you can just print money, which is what the Federal Reserve does. Like, oh, if you want more money, we'll just print more money.
Yeah.
And China's going to continue buying our bonds because that's what China does. Well, when you impose tariffs on the entire world and piss off everybody,
And I believe we are like 800 billion dollars in debt to China at this point as well. We've borrowed a lot
correct.
from them.
So,
So
but
yeah,
they're the biggest holders of our treasury
yeah.
bonds too. So, and that's who honestly owns America.
Hmm.
Um, and things like, it's problems on both sides, but it all points to corporate greed. And that's what I think is the biggest
Yes.
problem with America is that if you go back, every president's done something stupid to appease their corporate masters. And it goes clear back to Reagan, I think.
It
But
started, yeah, it did start
with
then.
Reaganomics, right? The whole
Yes.
trickle down thing. We'll give
Yeah.
all the rich people all the money because they know how to spend it, know what to do with it, and that'll make its way trickle down to all the other people. Well, they're like, whoa, look at all this money. I'm not going to reinvest that. I'm going to go buy a yacht, right? Or
Another
14
one.
houses, right?
Yeah.
Or a helicopter or a private plane. I'm like, how does that benefit anybody? It doesn't. Maybe the company's building those things, but that's only a few people. Whereas you have hundreds of millions, if not billions, of people going hungry, starving. So people like
Yeah.
Elon can be worth $350 billion because that's what we value is money.
Yeah.
I
And
think
that's,
paying off the nanny,
yeah.
I think paying off the nanny to not say anything to the media is a fucking waste.
Who's nanny? Elon's?
No, I'm just saying a billionaire who
Oh,
pays off the nanny that he knocked up is a fucking
okay.
waste. That's not going to trickle down to anybody. That's going to be an NDA that nobody finds out about. But boy,
Okay.
that
Yeah.
billionaire needs more money. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and for me, I don't agree there should be billionaires. There shouldn't be billionaires. If you make
Well,
that
as
much money,
AO,
there's a problem.
yeah. I mean, one thing that I loved, I remember listening to AAOC say this, it's been quite a while, but she says people don't make $1 billion, they take $1 billion, which in the
Correct.
meaning, like in a nutshell, she was just saying that because what you brought up before, like CEOs and all these people are taking the money that they should be paying their employees and giving them fair wages and,
Right.
benefits and things like that. That's where they're making the billions, is because they're not sharing it with the people that are actually helping them make their billions.
Correct.
Right. Human beings are
And,
just assets to them, tools to make
right.
more
Yeah.
money.
And COVID made it worse, right? So now we had all this
Yes.
supply chain issues,
Yeah.
and so companies charged more. Well, those prices didn't come back down once supply chains opened back up. They just continued to provide or charge the same amount of things and said, look at how much more money we can make now. Woohoo! We're even
And
richer. And
I
the
think
people are
that's what's
even
going to
more
happen.
screwed.
Do
That's
you
what's going to
find,
happen with these tariffs too.
yeah, the
The
tariffs are,
cost of goods are going to go up,
yeah,
and eventually companies are just going to have to make the decision if I'm going to stay in business with these tariffs being. I mean, this is the new economy now. I've never seen anything go up so drastic to where it ever came down. Just like Jared said with COVID, prices go up, they never come down. So a corporation has to make a choice. If I'm going to stay in business, I have to pay employees more. I have to pay employees enough to be able to afford these goods with these tariffs and these rising costs that we've created for no fucking reason. And there you go.
Yeah, and I can link that back to um, the 14th Amendment, right? So the 14th Amendment gave, slaves voting rights, gave them rights, natural born citizens. But in an off-headed comment from the judge, after this case was over, they were talking about corporations and talking about corporations should be people. And nowhere in that ruling did the judge say that corporations are a person. But for some reason, that was recorded in the notes by the court reporter who was taking that, and they ran with it. So now corporations are people, right? So now they were allowed to donate to campaigns and, give all this money because a corporation is a person. And if you look at personality traits, and since a corporation is now a person, the corporation matches completely, utterly, and uh, I don't know, realistically, a psychopath, right? They have all the traits of a psychopath. They don't give a shit about any other human being. All they care about is themselves, right? And enriching themselves, making themselves more powerful, making themselves wealthier. And that's what we're living in, is corporations have all the control. Corporations have all the money. Corporations own all the politicians. Corporations tell you what you can and can't do with your body, tell you what medications you can take and what you can't, even though your doctor says something else. Like,
and then not being able to afford the medication.
exactly, right? And making it so expensive that you can't afford it. And it's because in America, it's all about money and not about the people. Like, you can
Right.
see other
Yes.
countries that have socialized medicine, you
Yep.
know, people have better benefits, people are healthier. America is last in almost every fucking
Everything.
category
Yep.
that a modern world is measured by.
Right. Exactly.
But
Or
hey,
how about this? We're
we're
the
the
number
richest.
one. Well, how about this? I put it the other way. We're number one in the worst, or the number one least, or you know what I mean?
Hey,
It's
but I
That's where
mean,
we're at.
again, it goes to that corporate greed, right? We have the
Yeah.
most billionaires. Hey, we are the richest country in the world. Well, are we really? No, you have 1,100 people in this country that are the richest people in the country, and the richest country.
I kind of
Those
educate
1,200
people
people own
about that.
90% of
Yeah.
everything.
like I try to help people be disillusioned by the American dream because I tell them that American dream is an illusion. Because it's just not, I don't think it ever really was there, but more so now it's definitely, not up for grabs. It really, it comes to a very selected, privileged, people. If you are, like, as you say, if you're very gifted in a sport or, you win American Idol or, there's
Right.
these little door gateways in certain ways where you can maybe become the American dream, but it, by all means, it is not accessible for the average person anymore, where
Right.
the wages equate to a quality life, where there was a time, like I remember just watching a documentary that it was like, there was like this 7 year window, like it was somewhere from like the 60s into the 70s where like where, I don't know, maybe it was longer than that, but there was just this short period in time in American history where there was a work-life balance, where one person can work, where you can afford a house and the car and afford to go on vacation and have a really, let's say, stable, normal lifestyle, which totally changed, especially with the Reaganomics where, the disparity is. And now, even more so, if you heard Bernie ask some, I don't know, right-winged person about, would you want to raise the minimum wage from $7.50? This other guy said no, flat out. Like he didn't, like
Right.
normally you get the, the curve answer, like they veer around the answer. But this guy flatly said out, no. $7.50 minimum wage, who can live on a $7.50 minimum wage? I mean,
People that live 14 families to a house.
I'm
Right.
just like,
Yeah.
yeah, I just want to get back to like, this is where like, I just want to like, just kind of hone in is like, when you guys are talking and I'm like nodding my head is that I believe that if we were leaders, we would have the moral compass, that, people deserve, people deserve a quality education where I would say that they learn critical thinking, they learn common sense. We need to bring back ethics and morals in things, because I have to be honest with you, parents can't even take the time to teach them, even if they had the morals and values. That unfortunately, I think it has to go back, in my opinion, to the education system. I think that we need to learn the real history so we stop repeating, history. And I do believe in what you're talking about, trades and skills. Have wood, what was it? What kind of class did you guys have, like metal class or wood?
Yeah, wood shop or
Wood
yeah.
shop, and
Yep.
I think that should be a requirement. I also think we had like cooking, classes, maybe even a
Yeah,
cooking
home ec, yeah.
class. Home ec, right?
Yep. Yeah, I think, some of the other things to help fix this
Yeah.
problem is we should be teaching debate. Like you should have 2 years in
Debate
high
class,
school.
yes,
You should have two
debate.
years
Yeah.
mandatory debate. Like, and that would teach kids the value of having one, your own opinion on things, but two, it helps them research both sides, right? So in debate, not only do you have to look at your side and your argument, you have to look at counter arguments that the other side's going to bring up against you so that you can rebuttal against them, right? And have that answer. And I think without that knowledge, people just accept the bullshit that comes out of Trump's mouth. Like, that guy is a fucking liar. Like, that's the only way he got elected. Like, he's not doing anything he said he was going to do except dismantling the government, right? And I think a lot of people voted for that because they see the government as this ultimate big beast that it's become, right? And that it's so corrupt, somebody needs to just gut it and start over. I kind of agree with that. And I kind of, what the idea behind Doge, right? Which there was already a department in the government that did what Doge is doing, um, of going through and looking at all the fraud, waste, and abuse. These guys were already there, right? But since Elon gave Trump $275 million for his campaign, he now became Trump's butt buddy in office. And honestly, the billionaires are the ones that are pulling the strings, right? And then I also
Yes.
love to tell people, Trump is worth $7 billion, right? He's also a billionaire as our president. So the billionaires are running everything. So it's become an
Yeah.
oligarchy, like Bernie's
Yes.
been saying for
Yes.
years,
Yeah.
and nobody listened to.
Forever.
Right.
Yep.
Mhm.
And,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of
Yes.
people that are awake have seen that, right? And so now,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
this last weekend, 5 million people showed up and protested the bullshit, right? And I want more people to do that. I want more people to organize,
It
more
needs to be,
people
I
to
have to
go
be honest,
out.
it has to be more than one day. I mean, I'm just being
Right.
honest. I think it's
It
great that they
does.
did it, but it has to be something to keep going in order for something else to shift, you
Right.
know?
And I think we need to do some boycotts, right?
Mm,
Hit
like,
hit these
yeah,
fuckers where it hurts. Their money. Stop buying
right.
shit.
Yeah.
Right?
Don't
Like
buy shit, man.
everybody has enough stuff to last them a week. If everybody just stopped buying everything for a week, these guys would freak the fuck out,
Fuck them up. Yeah.
right?
Especially like
And be like,
Walmart. Yeah.
exactly, and just be like, look, we are the people that put you in office. We, the people, have the power. And that's what it
Hmm.
says in our goddamn constitution, morons. Go
Yeah.
look it up. We, the people, have the power. We, the people, elect our officials. And if we, the people, don't hold them accountable, this is the shit we get. This fucking country is what we get. And I am utterly and completely pissed off about how this country has turned out. And I partially blame Gen X because we just stood
Hmm.
by and let it happen, right? We were the
Hmm.
fence sitters. And
Yeah.
that's why you don't see any Gen X leaders. Like, there's probably a few. I can't name any off the top of my head right
Me
now because
either,
they don't come to the
actually.
forefront, right? But
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's the problem is that generation just let shit happen. And
Mm.
now we're seeing millennials pick up the the banner, right? You're not seeing Gen Xers come out and say this is what needs to happen. I'm
Hmm.
running for office. I mean, sure, there's a few, right, in every House and Senate in states, but that highest federal level of Senate and House, I don't think we have a lot of Gen Xers in there. There's a lot of
Yeah.
Boomers still in there that don't represent the majority of America, and
Right.
so you as a voter in this country, one, you need to fucking vote. Like it's your
I
right
think I heard
in
like
this country to vote.
36%,
Yeah,
36% didn't vote or something
Yeah.
like that.
right.
Everybody
So I'm
sat
like,
this one out.
I
Mhm.
can't
right.
believe that people sat this one out. I mean, this was like
Well, and that's the
for either
problem.
side, it was like a
Mhm.
big deal,
Right.
the biggest and most
Well,
important election.
right, but here's the problem. Democrats are fucking horrible. Like they ran the dumbest candidate they could have put up there.
You
Like,
think?
yeah, I mean, Kamala, okay, she's okay, but it was like a choice between dumb and dumber. Like,
You think she's dumb?
really?
She's
No,
highly
I think,
educated and
well,
she did
she is, but
she's
none of
done
her
work in
policies.
government.
Right,
None
but
of
here's
her.
the problem. She went on national television and when asked what she would change from Biden's policies and everything else, she said, I wouldn't change a thing. Right? So
Oh, I see what you're
America
saying.
is pissed off at the corruption in government. So now you have Trump over here saying, well, I'm going to fix it all. I'm going to burn it all down to the ground. Right? I'm going to go investigate fraud, waste, and abuse and make
Hmm.
America great again. And everybody believed him, right? Because that's what he said he was going to do.
But
And
the
your
thing was is that he
alternative
didn't.
was
But he
Kamala keeping the
didn't do
status
it.
quo. No,
He
that's
didn't do
exact.
it the
But he's a
first
He
liar,
doesn't
time
do
around.
anything. Yeah, he
right?
doesn't
But I'm
do
just saying
anything that he says.
but I'm just saying like at least, and I'm just saying like I'm sorry, like I shouldn't even interrupt. You
No,
know
it's fine.
that's a bad thing. I'm sorry, but like I'm just saying the people that like Trump, like I'm just saying just even them, if they could go back to 2016 to 2020 and just tell me what he did really that made America great again in those 4 years. Like, I'm just saying, like, I don't see, like, if, I have to be honest with you, if he really did make America great, regardless of great again, then I would be like, you know what? I was wrong. But I mean, mind you, I was watching and painfully watching him in leadership over from China. And it was so embarrassing, first of all. Like, I don't even want to tell people I'm from America, first of
Right.
all. But he did, he through that pandemic was the most embarrassing, failure of leadership through a major global crisis. And I
Right.
just can't believe, on top of everything else that people don't remember, that you want to point out, we were number one in deaths in the world through that pandemic. We were at the top of, top of third world countries like Brazil, like India, that we allowed what happened, to the most vulnerable people in our country. And people don't remember. It's like, did they get zapped like from the Men in Black? Like, like they had that laser, like, let's forget about these past 4 years and
Yeah,
reboot their
forget about it.
brain. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't see what he did that was so great that people were
He
like,
didn't.
we got to do again. I mean,
Right. So the
Yeah.
richest people under Trump in his first administration got tax cuts. Corporations got tax
yes,
cuts.
I got
Right.
that. I know. Yeah.
So you provided all these tax cuts to the rich, which further exacerbated our problems in this country.
Yep.
And because those guys not paying their fair share, that's where a lot of that wealth comes from and helps pay for things.
Yep.
It's not the middle class, right? It's these corporations and rich billionaires and our bullshit tax code that allow them to offshore shit and not pay taxes and all these tax loopholes. Like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, like their effective tax rate is 4%.
Oh my God.
4%. Whereas, me and Ian, and, if you were in America, your tax rate, depending on where you're at in your tax
Right.
bracket, your effective tax rate, especially in Washington, where Ian and I live, it's like 75% between
75.
between what I pay for, Social Security, all the other taxes, and then you add gas tax and property tax and tax after tax after tax. Like Washington's one of the highest tax states in the US now. I think California is still first. New York might be third.
Are you
second or
getting
third.
anything in return? Meaning, is there a
No.
good infrastructure? Nothing. Okay.
So,
No, we get potholes the size of moon craters. We got to try to drive
Right.
through.
But Trump, as big as an idiot he is, he's really good at a narrative, right? So the reason he got elected was he made this issue about division, right? Illegals coming across the border. They're coming for your jobs. They're bringing fentanyl. They're killing everybody, right? And so a lot of people like, oh, really? But okay, we should stop that, right? And making things about transgender people. We shouldn't have transgender people in sports and blah 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 blah. Like he
all
further pushed the
distraction.
narrative
Yeah.
of dividing people, right?
Yep.
And not uniting people. And the Democrats just kind of let it happen, right? Like they didn't say no. Let's call out Trump on his bullshit. And the one debate that they have that he did get called out on his bullshit, notice they never had a debate again. Right, because you can't have Trump up there saying all this bullshit and then being fact checked real time by the other political opposition. Right, so he declined to do any other debates
Yeah.
after that.
Yeah.
Right, so he controlled the narrative. He controlled what he wanted America to see, and by he, I mean the rich billionaires behind him. Which, hey, we're all there at the inauguration. Right, you want to really see who's running America? Look at Trump's inauguration. They were all standing there. They're not even afraid to hide it anymore. They don't.
No,
give
they
a
don't
shit.
hide. No, that party doesn't hide anymore.
Right.
Like, thing is that, like, if you go back to Reagan, and I watched, I think it was Capitalism, a Love Story, by, oh my God, Michael Moore. He had footage of the whatever corporation person behind, like in the corners of when Reagan was making a speech and literally feeding him the words of
Right.
what to say. It was mind blowing to me to see that. Really,
Yeah.
it was.
And again, so like, how do we fix that? Right? How does America fix that?
So that's that's not about how Americans to fix it. But let's start closing up. Wrapping up is how would Gen X fix it?
Become politicians.
No,
or holding people accountable to
holding
their
people
BS,
accountable.
right?
Yeah.
That's the biggest one, is hold
Yes.
people accountable. And then honestly, like, people need to step up and lead. So I'm running for office.
All right.
But realistically, right? Like, I think the morality, the traits, the common sense from Generation X can help
Yes.
rebalance out a lot of this. But it's a humongous uphill battle, right? Like, you need to do campaign finance reform so corporations and rich people can't donate money. Like, your single biggest donation is $1,000. Done. There's no $275 million from Elon, right? Going to one person. Term limits. Get the goddamn dinosaurs out. They're done. Like,
Or
if
like
you're
Senate
older
and
than
yeah.
right, but if you're older
Yeah.
than retirement age, bye. Like, retire already. You're already
But
rich.
is that ageism?
Partly, like, Bernie's a good example, right? Bernie's
Because Bernie is
old,
amazing. I'm
but
sorry,
he's
he's in his
amazing.
80s. Yeah.
Right.
His
But he's
his
awesome.
mental
He gets it.
faculties are all there,
Right. So maybe you have
So
to pass a mental test. I don't know.
I think
Like,
passing a mental test.
yeah,
I think
might be
that's,
good.
I
But term
mean,
limits would help, right? You can only serve twice, just like presidents and anything else.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
getting that rotation of people coming back in and more ideas from other people
yeah.
instead of the same people over and over and over.
I
Because
want the work
we have
I
career
want the working
politicians.
class to be politicians. As you said, like I want
Yeah.
the people that know what's really going on being our leaders. I think
Right.
our leaders should be coming from real people of all dynamics. That should be required in my, like, diversity in hands-on knowledge, experience, people who have built, their lives up from, with their hands, not
Yeah.
privileged people. That would be a start. And also the president needs to be qualified. Like we all have to go get educations, go into debt for it, or, as Gen Xers work our way up. I don't think 35, being 35 and older and being an American citizen born, is enough to be qualified for president of the United States. I do believe we need to update, the qualifications, including mental health,
Yeah.
as well. Yeah, so for me, I'm gonna wrap it up. I love everything that you guys shared, and your passion for a better world. But I don't know if we've passed the tipping point when it comes to America. However, when I researched and I, was looking into here's what leadership looks like under a Gen X. And I'll give the highlights. One, healthcare that doesn't suck is the first one. We believe in affordable, transparent, and accessible healthcare, right? Number two, education that prepares kids for life, just like what we talked about. Financial literacy, digital skills, mental health, real history and civics, trade skills, and academic paths. Number three, work-life balance is not a luxury. Absolutely. And one of the many reasons why I left was I wanted a work-life balance that included my passion for travel. I'm not going to, work, 50 weeks out of the year and maybe get paid 1 week off. I mean, we need to utilize the European ways. They have a lot of countries have a healthy work-life balance, and I believe in that. So that would look like a 4-day work week, national family leave, mental health days, and remote and flexible jobs. Another Gen X value would be save the damn planet. That's kind of a big one
What?
for me.
You're crazy.
You're being sarcastic, right?
Yes, I am.
I hope. Okay, well, for me, especially as a global traveler that goes immersed into the cultures, one thing is for sure is that this planet really is in crisis, and we can't live without this planet, and we are not moving to Mars. It is so stupid. We should be investing in this planet, and I believe the education about our planet needs to be in the schools as well, and get their hands dirty and start, growing things and doing things that way. And so we want to cut the carbon caps, the green infrastructure, renewable energy, and climate education in schools. Number 5, protect our digital selves. We remember life before the internet. So we would like to see people break up big tech monopolies, protect data privacy, and regulate algorithms that manipulate the public, which is what you guys are talking about. And I'm learning from you because I really don't, I know about algorithms, but I didn't realize how controlled things are getting. It's really scary. Number 6, invest in the arts like they matter. And because they do, public art, music, theater, grants for indie creators, art education in every skill. Creativity is not a luxury. It's a human right and a form of resistance. And I have to be honest with you, part of my rebellion and part of my ability to live a solo Gen X lifestyle the way I do is because I learned critical thinking and debates in art school. That's why they want to take over the Kennedy Center and take over the galleries. They want to take away the independent thinkers, and that comes from the arts. Arts is one of the biggest ways of killing a thinking society. And then 7, real immigration reform, humane, logical, and transparent. I wonder if that will ever happen. 8, justice that actually means justice, and decriminalize nonviolent drug offenses and focus on rehab and, getting people back into the real world. I mean, we have the highest rate of, incarceration in the...
Correct. Because
right?
prisons are owned by
World?
corporations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
get money for the amount of prisoners they have. So they're going to affect laws so they can keep the most people in there as possible. Oh, and we've made them wage slaves. We pay them $2 an hour for
Yeah.
their work.
Exactly. So equality before the law isn't a radical idea. It's the bare minimum. 9, education as a tool of liberation, bring back local control and national support. Trust teachers, protect kids, teach empathy, media literacy, and how to think, not what to think. And the last one I have is campaign finance and media reform. I think you just brought that up. Money out of politics, facts back into media, break up corporate news empires, and let the public reclaim the narrative. So those are the Gen X values in leadership, and what I believe if we did have someone that I would say we would make an effort in these areas for sure. My last question to you guys, some words of wisdom to pass down to the next generation. I know there's too much, but what would be like, let's just wrap it up being like, share one more last words of wisdom or something that people can take from either this episode that we just did or something you would like to add to it. What are some of your last words, Ian and Jared, that you can share with my listeners?
Well, I'll wrap up with this. Perfection isn't perfect. I think there's a lot to be said for giving it your best and fighting for what you believe in, no matter what it looks like. Trying to be perfect and fit into the mold is just a waste of time. I mean, just stay true to yourself, your own moral compass, and just be yourself. Don't follow the herd.
That is so good. Yes.
Yeah. Mine's going to come back to the golden rule. Unless there are a lot of people that have never heard that, because there's probably a lot. Treat others how you want to be treated. Like, become that society of we and stop being the society of me. And educate yourself. Since the education system has failed you, go educate yourself. Don't just take what you see in these corporate media as truth. Go research the other side. Go look into both sides of an argument before you start spouting off your bullshit. Right? Because I see this a lot in TikTok lives that I'm on, is people just continue to talk about the talking points that the right has given them to talk about and the
Exactly.
left has given
Yeah.
them to talk about.
Yeah.
And they don't actually do the research. So when you come into these debates and arguments with people about the data and, pointing that out, they're silent because their argument no longer holds water. So do the research, treat others how you want to be treated, and just be good human beings, because we're all living on the same damn ball, going through space around a giant ball of fire. So
Yeah.
if we continue to fuck it up, we're all dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I didn't plan anything here, but for me, I would, as someone that's the Experient Explorer, I just, regardless of your budget, I do believe travel is one of your best educators. And what I mean, even if you can't afford to leave the United States, go into an area of your own city or a different neighborhood with different people and get to know them better. And try to immerse yourself into their food, go and check out their festivals, just put yourself in a different situation that helps you really understand if those people are really the enemy or those people are really the problem that you have. It's important for us to get to know each other better. One of the reasons why I travel is I'm trying to undo a lot of the, let's say, prejudices or things that were implemented into me, and really try my best to be much more open to understanding the world and other people. So I strongly suggest for people a form of education is travel or getting outside of your comfort zone. Immerse yourself and make an effort to find the truths. And the only way to do that is to get unplugged and be like a Gen X and go out and do your learning. Go out and do things to help you see things in a new way. All right, so with that, let's connect. Please follow, like, and ring that bell for No Borders, No Filter. It's on all platforms, and also I am going to be putting in my description, especially on YouTube, of the links on how you can connect with CommonX. But I want to give you guys a moment because I know you like to do shout outs. Can you please shout out some of your social media for people to connect with you?
Sure. You can follow us on TikTok. You can follow Ian Primer at GenXDad. You can follow Jared at GenXJared. And we are available on Facebook, Instagram, Patreon. We're everywhere as CommonX Podcast on all those social media platforms. You can find us on Spotify and all podcast platforms as well. The only difference is when you're on TikTok, it's at GenXDad and at GenXJared. We love to get on lives. So if you are a live TikToker and you're following us, there's a good chance we'll pop into your live and share our feedback and comment and enjoy the live with you. Absolutely.
Yeah. These guys, as you heard, really speak their minds and truths. If you'd like to continue that narrative, definitely reach out to them. And more so, if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend who might need a wake-up call. Because we certainly need to awaken the senses right now. So thanks again, Ian and Jared, for your time and sharing a wealth of perspective that I believe is benefit for all generations. So until next time, see you. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Get you with the sound of a stereo. The subliminal America.